Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of multi-line text. It's going to be manning comments, so we'll wait for a couple of minutes for people to join us and get notifications. Took me a little bit of time to get it to share to the page for some reason. Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft.
Apologies. So we have Gwyneth, we have your mum and Carol for watching.
Okay.
Do you want to say good morning?
Morning. So I'm in the Canvas Workspace desktop version to start with. And you'll be able to do this pretty much the same way in the online version. Just you'll be limited to your font choices. Okay. So you're going to start with your text tool and you're going to click and it will come up with a cursor. And I have a verse I'm going to use for today, which I'm just going to type out.
Your mum says hi, bud.
Hi, Mum. I presume this is an American quote because we're using American spelling.
Sure, you can change it, can you?
So, I don't know with a quote where the ethics of that stand. Changing spelling. If it's an American quote. Anybody knows out there, please let me know. So what I'm going to do with this first line is I'm going to shrink it to roughly the size of a topper. So you're going to want to bring it in a bit more. Okay. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see a bit better. Now just so we can keep that all the same size,
Sarah Pack is watching.
I'm going to use Alt and click and drag it downwards so that we have a copy, and then if we hold shift it actually locks it to keep it in a straight line, okay, which is useful when you're doing a verse. When you click it again you can just carry on typing, so this is the reason why it's a lot easier on here than it is on the machine.
Tracy as well.
Hello.
And Sarah Pack makes sense. Morning, Tracy. And Sarah.
Okay, and we can do the same again. So hold Alt, click, drag downwards, press Shift. And we'll get it roughly right. And then just left click once and it comes back to our cursor. With each end of the line you can just hit return and that closes it. And one last copy, and I'm dragging this a bit further down because this is going to be who it's attributed to. Okay. So the advantage of doing it on here is, let's say we decided, like it says, to do the English spelling. We haven't got to re-enter the whole line, we can just go back into it and edit it. And we could do the same down here. Okay. Next thing we can do, if we select the lines of our text and go to edit, we can align it to the left, we can distribute our lines so they're nice and even, so we won't too far out. Okay. If we look at that and we decide, well, actually we want to do it more as a topper, we can change it to centered. Okay. So if you do that and then you go, oh, but I left this line here. No worries, just select it all and you can press center again. Okay. Now obviously if we want to then take this provides and put it down here, we'd have to click on it, take it out, so I'll just use cut, and then go back in here, and paste it back in. And obviously then our alignment goes all higgledy-piggledy, which is perfectly acceptable from this point. So we can just straighten it back out. And it just makes it fit that little bit better. Is everybody with me so far?
I think so.
Okay.
If you do have any questions, guys, just put them in the comments and I'll try and keep up and ask them the best I can.
So I'm just going to change my font to something a bit thinner. So the advantage of drawing your font instead of having to cut it is that you can go for something that is a lot finer, more intricate. But you also want to bear in mind that when it draws, if you're drawing with let's say a 1mm tip, you want to make sure that your letter form is open enough that it's still legible. So this one wouldn't work very well at this scale. Hi Zena. Whereas this one on the other hand is perfect. So it's a nice thin line, but we've got these big open spaces in the middle of the letters. So that'd be a really good example to use. So if you want to know what the font is, it's Beloved Sans. And it's probably from Font Bundles, I would have thought.
Creative Fabrica.
Yeah. Okay, so then if you wanted to turn that into a topper, you can just add a basic shape around it. Okay, so that's going to be my inside line. I'm going to set all of those to draw. I'm going to select this outside shape. I'm going to go to offset. I'm going to go outwards. I'm going to change that to 3mm rather than 5. Leave your original line as is. And go OK. And we're going to change that new line to a cut. And that will have put it at the top of your shape list. So what we want to do is just drop that down to the bottom so we can get to everything underneath it. Okay, so with our original shape that we have set to draw at the moment, we're going to change that to a dashed line, and that way we can do like a stitched effect. So you've got a few different dashes that you can choose from depending on what suits your style. So if you combine it with a normal stitch die, you can almost match it up. And you can do really big stitches, or you can do little ones, the choice that you want.
Jen says morning.
Morning!
And Pete's joined us as well.
Hi Pete! Okay, so that's how we can start to do multi-line text in Canvas. And for the most part, that's probably what you will do. If you are starting to get into scrapbooking, however, and you have much more journaling to do, then you will want to go to something that's a bit more capable.
You just do if you put it in a card and putting it sideways on and stuff.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Before I move on.
Yeah, before you move on out of Canvas.
Before I move on, very quickly. So let's do a quick card blank. a bit of pattern to it. So we'll make a quick card blank. Drop in a square. Patch up these bits in the middle. Put in a score line. I'll leave it as a cut one for now. So, just because I can demonstrate it on here, you won't be able to send it on to the machine like this. So let's say you have a card blank and it's bigger than your mat. Okay. What you would want to do is make sure that you're within these red lines and you ignore your bottom red line. Okay. So when you stick the card base to your mat, it's just dangling off. Okay. But then you have to think sideways. Okay. So if you're doing this with a asymmetrical card blank, what I'm going to show you is this is the top and this is the bottom. So you have to remember that that is your top of your card and that's the bottom. And I'm going to get my text, just going to group it, and just so I can do a nice and easy click and drag it over. Okay, we're going to rotate it. Now if you press and hold shift, it's nice and easy to rotate it, or you can do it on the machine. Okay, so when you go to your machine, you're going to do a background scan and just double check your alignment. Okay, and that's the way you can draw it into the inside of your card.
Morning, Sarah Lou.
Okay, so if you want to do the same, they've all swapped around just to confuse me. So, designer. If you want to do the same here, I'm just going to go in with a normal scrapbook layout and pretend we're going to do loads and loads of journaling. So when you're working in designer and you want to work multi-lines text, you're going to go to the frame text tool. Okay, you're going to click and drag it to form the shape that you want your text to be. Okay, and I'm just going to go for now, insert for the text, save me having to follow typing. Okay, so when you've got your text in your box, you still have all the same formatting tools, so you can still go left, centre or right, but now you can start to actually play with your justification options as well. So we can go fully justified to the left, to the centre, to the right, and then fully justified, which is where it takes that last line and it also forces that across, which means if you have a one word orphan at the end of your paragraph, it spaces out the letters, which is quite weird. So chances of you using it too often are quite rare, but there are some. Okay, so the benefit of this being, when you were working with a frame, whereas before we were having to work line, 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 now we can just go, right, okay, I don't want that word just there. Come on, let me click. Oh.
It's filler text.
Probably. So if we do that, you'll notice it automatically starts to it's not really manipulate, is it? It's changing how it's doing the spacing of the text, and in this case you can see that it's starting to write more text because we're using the filler text on it. Oh, that's making you work hard, isn't it? So if if I just take that out for a minute and did I put it in notes?
What's that?
The thing I did the other day, or did I just copy it straight in? Oh, I must have copied it straight in. Let's just pinch a bit of this. Just paste this in. Just going to take this out just so it behaves like it's kind of normal text. The other advantage of this is we can actually start to do different types of text in the same box. So if you want to put a subheading in, you can do. So first of all, let's give it a decent font so you can see a bit better. We used Beloved Sons before, so we'll stick to that one. Let's zoom in a bit. Okay, so we can start to set this by line or by paragraph. So I'm going to go up to 15 point. And then if we go into Studio, paragraph, we can start to manipulate our actual paragraph bit. So it's going to drop in a bit of space underneath the line. And we can do that for paragraphs as well, so we don't have to do silly things like double carriage returns and they just look a bit clunky. But if you're then going, well actually I want that sentence to go to the next line, if you press shift and then hit the return key, it takes it to the line under without starting a new paragraph. Okay. And same with the to, the a, and by. Now down here we've got a really weird one because officially if you're typesetting you take 1, 2 and 3 letter words to the line underneath. So if we do that, we've got this really weird big open space happening here. So usually what we try and do, if possible, is either change how we've got it worded or some way of bringing that embossing up here. So I might go with the word element just to push it out across. But because it's a frame text, it's always going to be editing on the fly. You haven't got to think, oh, I've got to edit this line to edit that line and then have to follow it all the way down through. It does it all for you. So that's when you would choose to use frame text. Okay. Any questions yet?
No, it's all very quiet. And Wendy's joined us as well.
Hi Wendy. So there's loads of things I can teach you with text, but I need to know whether it's useful. Coming from a typesetter, I could probably bore you to death with type, but any questions?
Nothing at the moment. I'll let you know if any come up.
Okay. Let's go for something slightly different font.
How do you get that into your machine?
Okay. So, right quickly, let's choose something different. Something with a couple of weights to it. I'll go future workers. That'll be. Let's take that off bold and just go to a. Okay, so whenever you send text to your machine, it's literally the very last thing that you do. And if you can keep a separate copy of this, it is a good idea. Okay, so we can see there where we've done our course line change. So I'll just take those out for a minute. And you go to layers, convert to curves, because your machine cannot recognise text. So at that point you're kind of setting it in stone that that is how you want it to be. So before you do that, make sure you haven't got any spelling mistakes, grammatical errors or missing punctuation. Because once you do that, it's kind of...
sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm to start again if you got it wrong.
Yeah, which you don't really want to be doing. Especially if you've done a big long bit of journaling that's going all the way down your page. The last thing you want is to have to enter all that again. So then what you would do is go to export, SVG, raster would be 96, whole document, export. Choosing text. So what I'll do is I'll go back to Canvas, and just because I know that my SVG will come in top left, I'll just move this little bundle down here. I'm going to go to SVG, choosing text, open, and it's going to come in tiny like it usually does. So select it all, wait for your little arrow to go to your diagonal one, and you're just going to drag it out. There's no need to press and hold shift at this point. Okay, and group it. So if I close up that group, you can see those are all shapes, but this text here is still all text, and same down here.
Okay, there's a challenge for you.
Okay, I'm just going to send that all to the back, just to make life a little easier. Okay?
Yeah, I have another question for you.
Go on.
Can you do this sort of manipulations in a Word program and export via Canvas then to ScanNCut?
Yes. Pages. I nearly said to you have pages open.
Do a new document.
Yeah, I'm not going to open the other one. Okay, and I'm just going to go for a blank document. So I'm working in Pages, but this works the same whether it's in Word or whatever. And the way that probably 99.9% people will do it is they'll enter the text. So
you have to do pasting
there we go. Just for speed. Not that you would want to do that, but you can do that. Okay. And then the way that probably 99.9% of people do this is to print it and then scan it into their machine. Okay? And that is kind of the low tech way of doing it. Okay? If you want to do it so that you're using Canvas rather than using your machine, it really does depend on what you can export to. So if you look at my export menu, I can go to PDF, I can go to Word, I can go to EPUB, I can go to plain text, I can go to rich text format, and I can go to Pages. But what I can't do is export an image. So this is where I'm going quickly zoom in.
Another question.
Okay, let me just try and find me spacing on here. I can tell I don't use pages very often if I can help it. Okay, I'll do it the other way then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot. So that's Command Shift and 4 on a Mac, and you're going to ignore that pops up. It's because I've got it so that I can zoom in at the moment. So I'm just going to select the area text, and that's going to bring it up as a screenshot. Okay. And then if I go back to Canvas, I can basically do an image trace with it. And it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, which is why it's struggling to pick up things like this. If you're lucky, enhanced image tracing might do a bit better. So I'm just using the little negative brush to just take areas out, and then it should start to pick it up a bit better. The only trouble is it can be a bit tricky to see sometimes.
I know part of the answer to the next question, but I don't know the second bit.
So, but it also depends on the quality of your. Come on, thank you. Let's go up a few colours. Down. There we go. Still not picking up enough though. Picks up a little bit more that way. Anyway, so that's roughly how you do it.
Okay. Next question is from Zena.
Okay.
And can I put Affinity on an iPad, which I know the answer is yes, and manipulate things the same? She doesn't have a PC.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like different. Ian, I was going to ask you if we could do this actually. Can we hook up the iPad for a sec? If we use that one. So we'll try and do this on the fly.
We'll do a screen capture on it.
Well, I was going to see if I could actually use it to use as a additional scene.
Sorry,
Do you want to just put up the swapping cameras on it so I can?
Yeah. Bear with us a second. We'll be back in a minute.
Display on webcam, let's go. That's going to be changing it around though, isn't it?
Can you add a camera to there?
Okay.
You do is display capture off it.
Choose your video camera, isn't it? Source. iPad. There we go. Oh. Hi Mum. Can you just click on Affinity for me please? Hi Mum. There we go. Now I'll just drag it back down beneath the logo. There we go. So hopefully you can all hear me okay. This is what you'll get when you first open up Affinity Designer on your iPad. Well, not quite, but if you scroll down to the bottom in, it comes up with some little tutorial pieces down here. And if you scroll slowly back up for me, keep going, keep going, keep going. There's that one as well that you can download. Okay, which is very fun to look at wireframe. Okay, so all the way back up. There's a little plus in this top right hand corner. And then you can go to new document, new from clipboard. It will link to your cloud. If you have Dropbox on your iPad, it will link to there as well, I believe. Okay, so if you want to go new document for me. This is weird, I'm trying to click on the screen and go. You can still set up your same presets the same way, but for now if you go into print and A4 please Ian. So where it says device, go to print.
A4 millimeters.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, and your DPI you want to set to 96. Okay. And it will come up with your new document. So this is going to be fun, me trying to do this, but oh thank you.
Be careful, you only got 5% battery, so.
Okay, I'll try not to be too... So if we press and hold on our text tool, so just here, it comes up with the two options. You go to frame text, which is bottom text. You can drag in your box exactly the same way, and you can still do a load of blurb and so on and so forth. So everything that you do in terms of text is exactly the same on here as it would be on the Mac or PC version. Okay, and you still have all the same tools, so you've still got your move tool, your node tool, your point transformation tool is an interesting one. That's slightly different to what's on the PC version. You still have your corner rounder. We have the pencil tool, so you can still do your freehand drawing.
How does it work with fonts and stuff, does it?
With fonts it needs to have a font manager, and I've yet to find one that is reliable in terms of copying everything off the Mac onto it. But I'm trying my best.
I'll have a look into that for you.
Yeah, I'm trying my best to find one. So you can bring your own fonts in, it's just finding a way that is working for your setup, okay? The pen tool works exactly the same way, so when I'm saying click, you just press. Click and drag is just press and drag to do your curves. And a double tap finishes your line. The fill tool looks slightly different, but it basically works the same way.
Can you still export it as an SVG?
Yes,
Or
you
save it
can.
as an SVG, such.
You can indeed. So I'll just quickly go through the rest of the tools and I'll...
Yep, sorry.
So we've got the transparency tool is the next one down. We have the vector crop tool, so if you decide you only want part of it, you can actually crop it. Which is quite funky on occasion, so if you go, well actually I only like that bit of it, you can crop it. We have the rectangle tools and all the other shape tools, so if we press and hold it comes up with the big list. The text tool I showed you, and the eyedropper is down there. Now where it becomes interesting on the iPad is down the right hand side. So your fill is on the top right with your stroke underneath. So wherever you want it to be, if I select a shape, so I have one selected. Let's give it a fill to start with so you can kind of see that. And we can change the width of our stroke, and we still have the same pressure controls. So we can still do a fake brush stroke if you don't happen to have an Apple Pencil. Okay, we can do dash patterns as well. And then right at the end we can get back to our pressure. We have brush tools, so you can change it to being different brushes instead of being a stroke. Something that we haven't really covered in terms of doing the PC and Mac version, because obviously when that gets into your machine it gets a bit confusing. So the next little button is our layers, so you'll see that looks fairly familiar. We have a group button, so we can group things on group. We have an appearance button, which is quite handy if you want to get in and just edit something manually.
Is it still half price at the moment?
I believe so.
Okay.
So in terms of your assets, as they're called, it's not quite the same as symbols. Assets is like something that you want to go between different documents. You have the ability to access stock files if you want to use stock imagery. You can sync symbols to your PC and Mac versions. You have all your usual layer effects that we've covered before. If there's any of these you want me to stop and go into, I can do.
Or do a separate stream because
Yeah.
of the battery on your iPad.
But yeah, you've got adjustments. So if you bring in a photo and it's a bit too dark or the colour's off, you can do things with that. That's quite funky. Your text tools are next. Then when you want to transform a shape, it has this little panel here. So in here we have our order, our flip, our scale, our rotation, our shearing. So like when we did the shadows the other day, when we were doing our text, you would do that through here. It is like Inkscape, but I much prefer Affinity Designer, especially for beginners.
You see it pop up in there, do you?
Yeah, it just popped up at the top, so it's like it was easy to just answer it at the same point. It has a lot more shape tools, and I just think it's the better all-rounder. If you want to get really, really complicated, to be honest, by the time that you're making the most out of Inkscape, you may as well have gone and invested in Adobe Illustrator and have a far easier ride of it. There are a couple of cool things that Inkscape can do, but it doesn't justify the learning curve, I don't think. Okay, so we've got our alignment tools are in here, and also constraining. So in terms of how we want the object to alter, so whether we want it to keep in ratio or not. Next we have our navigator, which is an easy way to get around a large document. So if we zoom right in, we can actually use this to go round.
Do you think Inkscape has had an update?
Yeah, don't I know it. It took ages for it to work on a Mac.
Even though it's still a beta on the Mac.
Yeah. Yeah, I still much prefer Affinity Designer because it's that much more intuitive, especially for people that may not have the same tech background that I have.
Yeah, and that's okay, Sarah. You're allowed to be late. Washing machine man's been to repair a washing machine.
Oh dear. Okay. So as with the desktop version, you still have all the same personas, as they're called. So this is the vector persona. We can go in and do pixels, so we can actually start to paint and pull and manipulate our shape. I won't do it too much on here because I don't want to stop it
You can
exporting.
get Inkscape on a Mac. Yes, you have to download the beta version. So when you go to the Inkscape website, look for the Mac beta, and you can get Inkscape on there.
Unless you have an older Mac, in which case
Yes.
the older versions will work fine. It's if you are totally up to date
Yeah,
with
if
your...
you're up to date with your updates, then you need the beta version,
Yeah.
which is the up-to-date version.
Okay, and we also have the export persona, which is the last one in the list. And there's times when you would use that, but it's probably too complicated to get into right now. Just thinking my battery.
Yeah.
So our first button along is like the equivalent of the file on your PC Mac version. So under here you would have your resize of your actual mat, your exporting, your saving, printing. I haven't tried printing actually from here. Yeah, I usually just use this as like a setup and then take it to the...
Send it to the machine, to the big one.
Yeah, send it to the big one to finish it off. You can import an image. You can change your artboards if you want. Like when we were doing the big stream last Friday, you can add infinite number of artboards as long as your iPad can cope with it. And we have snapping gridding guides.
So it says you'll catch up later.
Okay. So to get to an SVG, you need to go to export. Okay. You want to go to text as curves. You want to use the document resolution because we know that's set to 96. And you can choose where you're going to save it. So in this case I have a folder on my iCloud. I can just save it in there. And then that copies straight across.
Just be careful.
Okay, that's...
I'll just swap the screens back quick, just to do that too.
Okay, very quickly. If you need to duplicate a shape or copy or paste, it's in the top left of the 3-dot button. If you need to add, subtract, etc., it's in the bottom left. In the middle you have your operations, so selecting, grouping, converting to curves, expanding strokes, or merging curves and separate curves, which is slightly different to joining and closing. We have insertion targets. So what that basically means is when you're drawing a new shape, it will automatically go to put it on top, but you can tell it to go behind, on top, or inside, which is a bit of a bizarre one, but we were using that to do shadows the other day on a file. And your film mode, I don't generally mess with it too much. Okay, so that should be a very quick run through. And I'll flip back to Illustrator so you can do what you do. Yeah.
So let me... there we go, that should be back with you.
Okay. So I'm just going to come into Illustrator and Illustrator's type tool. You can do just straight off the bat a click and a drag and it will do frame text, or you can just click and it will do artistic text. Okay, so that's artistic text because it's just single line and we can play with it and put it onto pads, whereas our text in a frame, it will automatically put in for the text now. Okay, that's a very quick run through. Any other questions?
Zena says, I don't have your tech mind like you. I need you in my house 24/7.
That's why I prefer to recommend to people to go to Affinity Designer because it is that so much more user friendly.
Yeah, if you look on your iPad, it should be on sale still as well. I think it's half price at $9.99 at the moment.
Yeah. I know we've had requested that we do a streamer on the iPad version.
And now we know it works, we can.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a bit more.
Yeah, it's a bit more fiddly, so I might see if we can do like a setup with the iPhone so you can actually see me pressing the buttons, because there's no way of having a pointer that kind of shows what I'm pointing at.
Might be a setup you can do. I'll look at that, because you can change the accessibility settings.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm hovering over something rather than tapping it and saying this.
I thought there was. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I don't think so. I think that's it for today. So, go to
Okay.
call it a day.
Yeah, call it a day.
And Zina says, "Oh yes, please," to an iPad.
Okay.
Talk.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on the free trial on the iPad though, Sarah.
No, you can't get the free trial on the iPad, unfortunately.
And Sarah says, "You've been a great help as usual." Thank you, Sarah. So are we popping back later, or are we going to have an afternoon off? Are you feeling up to one this afternoon?
Painkiller should have kicked in by then. Go on then. I might do something with the Ultimate.
Okay, so we'll try and be back at 2. We'll see you then. You've got Lou on at 12 today, and Pete at 12:30 with his giveaway, and then Leslie at 1:30. We'll be back at 2, and then Pete's on again at 4 with his builder card. So do pop along and watch those. They're all very good. And if you're around first thing in the morning, you have Barbara with her doodles first thing in the morning, which is very relaxing and
Yeah.
shit out sort of
Oh,
stuff.
do you want to just say about tomorrow morning if people want to have a stream or not?
Is it Friday tomorrow?
It's Friday tomorrow.
Friday tomorrow. If you can all just drop us a message on the group or the page, whether or not you want to stream first thing tomorrow morning. Obviously there's a 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock, it's VE day. So if you can let us know if you still want us to stream, or if you just want to do an afternoon one at 2 o'clock. So if you can just drop us a message in the group or in the on the page for that'd be great. Okay, and we'll see you later at 2 o'clock.